welcome everyone. Let's wait for a few people to tune in and then we can get started and talk about the ins and outs, talk about the big game on Monday night. Welcome everyone. So it's slightly delayed, just setting up some stuff. Let a few people tune in and then we'll be done before the Bombers and Dogs game if you're interested in that. So we should be all good. Few interesting inclusions for Adelaide. They've pretty much brought in the old guard to come out and do the job, similar to what Freo did last week with Fife. Just bring him in, he beats us, and then conveniently he gets dropped this week, or he's rested this week and doesn't play because he's re-injured. So that's just our luck. Benjamin, welcome, mate. Scott wants to just get straight onto it. Well, we might as well. I was just getting a few people. Wait for a few more. Duncan straight in. Drop Sebros. He's a Crows supporter tuning in. He thinks that the Crows are going to win this week. Well, you know, if we play the way we did last week, mate, you've every chance of beating us. Daniel's, yep, that's true. There's a few different faces that we're going to see. We've seen that Ryan Burns. The big news is that he's got his long-awaited debut. He's played excellently in the practice games this season, not getting a chance, and all the talk was around Vital and what we wanted to do there and to get him into the team. And we thought out of all weeks, this was probably the week that we get a first gamer, whether it was Vital or whether it was of Burns. It looks to be this case. We're getting Burns, and I think that's the right call. I think against Adelaide, and what was lacking last week was some run, and I think Vital's probably not the player that you want to bring in if you're looking for more leg speed, if you want some inside grunt, which we desperately needed last week anyway, because let's face it, we were appalling pretty much in all facets of the game last week, apart from the first quarter. Vital's not really that sort of guy, whereas Burns, he takes the game on. He can get his inside ball, he can get his outside ball, and he can kick goals. And he played for Sandringham Dragons. We drafted him from there. And if you looked at, I had a good look at his stats, and he played, I think, a good 15 or 16 games last season for Sandringham Dragons. He averaged 25 disposals per game and almost, 0.5 to 0.6 goals per game. So for a midfielder to kick almost a goal per game and have 25 touches in a pretty good competition and playing for Sandringham with a lot of good players there, we've picked up a gem, and I'm really excited to see how he goes. And I think, there's no there's no bullshit about it, but Adelaide aren't where they used to be. Their midfield's tired. You can see they've brought in Bryce Gibbs, a guy that they've never played this season, and for some reason no one knows why. They've brought in Seedsman for more speed. They've brought in Tex Walker, annoyingly against us because he always seems to play well against us. Himmelberg, and then obviously the big one is Rory Sloane out. So what I'd love to see for Burns is to just play on a crouch brother. I think Joycey mentioned it in the podcast. Put him on a crouch brother. There's two of them. They always get 30 touches. They don't really do much with it, but they get to the right spots. They get to the ball. And for a first gamer, the first thing you need to do is learn where the patterns are and learn when the ball's going. So if you put him on players that know where the ball's going, he's going to get enough of it himself. He's going to get comfortable in the game. And once he gets comfortable, that's where I think we'll see the best of him, where he takes the game on and he shows us what he's got. And he looks like that sort of player that he's not going to be too worried about playing in front of an actual crowd away from home, Adelaide Oval, against a team that we haven't beaten since 2011, which is still crap when you think about it. 2011, guys, was the last time we beat Adelaide Crows. When Milne, I posted it yesterday, when Milne and Schneiderman kicked 13 goals too, we won by over 100 points. And yeah, it was great. But a long time coming. Adelaide's a bogey team that we need to get over. And this is the biggest chance for us to do it. Adelaide haven't been in this sort of form for a long time. They're bottom of the ladder. They're 0-6, and if we don't get them, if last week wasn't enough to get us revved, playing a team like this that are looking for they're looking for their first win. Let's face it, they're looking for their first win. They're going to be in front of their home crowd. This is not going to be an easy game. If we think, oh, last week was shit, we're just going to come out and beat them this week, it's not going to be easy. We're going to actually have to play our way and play well for the full game, because if out of all the games Adelaide have played, if they look at what happened last week against Freo, they're going to think, well, no matter what, if we're around St Kilda and we put a bit of pressure on them, we're going to break them. And we need to make sure that that doesn't happen. We need to make sure that we're confident. We forget last week, as shitty as it was, and it's still ingrained in my memory, and I'm sure you guys have thought about it all week. How the hell did we lose that game? We need to make sure that the boys aren't thinking that when they're playing. They need to just keep going for it and taking the game on, because the best form of defence for us under Rats is attack. We need to keep attacking. Adelaide are a slow team. They don't kick big scores. They're 0-6 for a reason. Gold Coast ran all over them. They took them on, they used their speed, they connected with handballs, and they didn't get lazy. We need to make sure that that's what happens with us. If we don't do that, then Adelaide are a team that if they get a little bit of confidence, we saw what happened when Freo got confidence. Adelaide's list isn't completely terrible when you look at it on paper. So if they get a bit of confidence, it's going to be very, very troubling for us. But in terms of the ins and outs, for us, in Paddy Ryder, Ryan Burns for his debut. Then you've got Nick Hind, bit of speed. Sinclair, I'm not sure if he's going to get into the final cut, but we'll see. And then you've got Shane Savage, which I think, he should pretty much be the lock. So the guarantees obviously Burns to debut. Then you've got Savage because Ben Long's been handed 3 weeks. And then Paddy Ryder to come in and support Marshall because they've got a decent ruckman who had a great game last week. And, let's face it, Marshall hasn't been in the best of form. So I think, if anything, it's okay to, lose maybe a John O'Marsh this week and bring in a Paddy Ryder, which means then Rowan Marshall can rest forward. Paddy Ryder can rest forward. They can rotate a bit more. We saw what they did against the Bulldogs with Tim English. There's no reason why they can't do it again. Adelaide pretty much play the one ruckman, so going in with 2 strong rucks. And Paddy's had enough of a time off to really want to get into the team and really hold his position. So I think he's gonna come in and make a stand. And what we need from Rowan Marshall is a massive improvement from last week. He needs to go forward, make an impact, but he also needs to get around the ground and get more of the ball. Last week was probably his quietest game in a long time, and it was the case with a lot of our team. So a lot of them surely would have had stern words, talk to them from the coaching staff this week in review. And we saw the article that the Saints brought out this week where it was just basically saying that everyone thinks we're pretenders and we need to make sure that we just cancel that out of their minds, make sure that it doesn't get hold of us and affect us too much. And all we can do is beat what's in front of us. And we're going to forget about last week and move on and just go out and beat Adelaide. The one out, Ben Long, 3 weeks suspension. I think that's bullshit. I don't know what you guys think, but 3 weeks is very harsh. When Dylan Shields completely runs past the ball, he gets 2 for Essendon, and everyone was talking about making Ben Long, an example for the competition, when I thought that he protected his body. He was looking at the ball the whole time, and the Freo ruck weirdly ducked and put his head first into the contest, and he's 6'9". I don't understand that. It didn't seem very fair, but we have to live with it. 3 weeks. I'm surprised Jimmy Webster isn't in the lineup. That's one thing that catches my eye when you look at the ins and outs. You would have thought, okay, I guess it would have been between Savage and Webster, and I thought with the new game plan that the Rats wants to implement, especially out of the back line, is good kicking, going down the middle, and taking the game on and having good users of the ball, high disposal efficiency, and that's something you can always link with Jimmy Webster. Shane Savage, not so much. He's more of a bomb sort of guy, but we'll see what we can do. I trust he comes in and he has his role, and we've seen a lot of players that were poor last season that have learned their role and kept it to basics, and hopefully he's one of them. I special mention though, I don't really like that we've gone with this extended bench. I don't understand, after the shitty performance of last week, I don't understand how we don't just come out and say, you're out. Why do we need another night? I don't understand. All the teams came out Thursday. We had the extra day anyway. I don't understand why can't the coaching staff, namely Brett Ratton, just come out and say, okay, Seb Ross, you were shit. You're out. Why do we have to keep it guessing? I don't understand why we can't just come out and make a statement. That annoys me. And I think that's something that, maybe we're just going to have to get used to with Ratton. He likes to use that extra day to get the final team in. But if you trained all week and you pretty much know your positions and where you're going to be when the team's selected, so I don't understand what the next 24 hours will entail, unless there's some injury niggles, because Dan Hanbury was a chance to come back early, but I'm glad they didn't put him into the lineup. We need him fresh for Port Adelaide next week, because that's going to be a massive game. Final team tomorrow, though, that brings me to talking about that. We've got 1 out so far, and we've got 5 ins. So in terms of outs, you'd probably say that Dean Kent and Matty Marsh, or Jono Marsh, sorry, Matty Marsh, are probably the 2 on the chopping block. Seb Ross and Brad Hill are 2 that people have talked about, but I feel like this is the sort of week that all the coaches have told them, look, you've got some runs on the board, we know you can do it, and we're going to give you 1 more week. If you don't perform this week against Adelaide, against a bottom team, then next week you're in trouble when we play the top team. So I think he's probably put it to the senior players, and it wouldn't surprise me for them to just, the leadership group, to get together and just to put the onus on their shoulders and understand that last week was a big opportunity that we lost, and this week's an equally big opportunity that we want to grasp and make sure that we take hold of and get the 4 points. It is on a Monday night, it's Channel 7, it's prime time, everyone's going to be watching. We need a huge reply, just like what Jared just said there. We need a massive reply. We can't come out and just think it's going to happen again. And I know for a fact that all week we would have been really pissed off at the performance last week. So I'm confident that the boys are going to come out and they're going to want to take the game on and show the AFL world that last week was a one-off and that we need to get the points. I'm just going to go through some of your comments. I think, in terms of styles, I'm not, similar to last week, I'm not too threatened by what Adelaide pose. What I'm threatened of is what is in our heads. Because last week, we had the game there for the taking, and we got into our own heads. Mentally, we checked out. Physically, we stopped working because we weren't passionate. We weren't thinking in the right frame of mind in the moment. And that pretty much consumed the whole team. And when one person did it, another person did it, we fell away. I think we're our own worst enemy in this case. Adelaide have obviously got some pretty decent players, but we're better than Adelaide. We are not 0-6. We are 3-3. We want to be in the finals. We want to be in the top 8 this season. And if we lose successive games to Fremantle and Adelaide, knowing 2 weeks ago we thought about, well, this is a great opportunity to go 5-2 and to kind of firm ourselves in the top 4. If we lose that chance, the draw's only going to get harder. We still need to play Brisbane. We still need to play Port. We still need to play West Coast, Gold Coast, who are doing well. There are some teams, Essendon, we haven't played them. There are a lot of good teams around us that we haven't played yet, so we need to make sure that when we have a chance to go into a game favourites and to get some good 4 points with a percentage potentially, we need to take that chance because we're not going to get it every week. Let's go through some of these comments. I'm just going to ignore some of the ones from Oliver. Mate, you're a funny one. Probably only on a planet where you're the only person there, so just stick to that planet. Farron says, what do we need to do well to win? Love your work and your podcasts. Thanks for listening to the podcast, by the way. This episode dropped on Wednesday morning, so head over there. We talk about last week's performance and then we preview this week. So if you haven't hopped onto Spotify or Apple Podcasts, Saints TV Podcast. But what do we need to do well to win? I think we just need to play our best. We need to play our best for a half. For 3 quarters, we should get the job done. But, we want a 4-quarter performance, but I think if we play like we did for 3 quarters, like we did in the first quarter against Fremantle last week, I think that's enough to get the job done. So if we can take the game on and the weather's good, we get our scoring and our efficiency going inside 50 at a high rate like we usually do. We're one of the highest in the competition at that. If we do that and we kick over 10 to 15 goals, I think that's enough to get the job done. Saints debut a new fella, says Guy. Go the motherfucking Saints. Drop Patton and give Webster a gig unless I'm missing something. Well, Webster's not even in the squad, so I don't think Patton's going to get dropped. We do have Savage there, and I can't see anyone else covering Ben Long from the ins that we've got. So I'm thinking that the rest of the defense is settled, and no one from the defense last week is going to get dropped. I think the issue last week was in the midfield. So there were a lot of midfielders that were down. They were down on their numbers. They were down on stopping their opponent and their pressuring numbers. We had 14 players with 1 to 0 tackles. So the midfield's where I see the brunt of the work being this week, and that's why you've got Paddy Ryder in the ruck, you've got Burns coming in midfield, Nick Hine midfield, Sinclair midfield. So there's a lot there that can be done. Nick Hine can also play forward, so it wouldn't surprise me if Marsh or Kent come out, and Nick Hine can play a bit of a forward defensive role with Loney and Gresh roaming in the forward pockets. Ryan Burns, great news, says Peter. Scott says that first quarter should be enough to beat the Crows, but bloody hell, 4-quarter effort and it should be comfortable. Exactly right. Matt's asking, don't know how Sebros kept his spot. To be fair, he hasn't yet, so we'll see the final teams tomorrow. I would have thought he'd have a bit of a warning this week because last week was shocking. He hasn't been groundbreaking all season, and that's the same goes for Brad Hill. I don't think he's had over 20 disposals once, maybe in the 6 games he's played for us. He needs to get to those numbers and be the game changer for us in games like these. And, you know, for the whole squad, if Adelaide get a bit of a run on, kick 1 or 2 goals and the pressure's on, don't break, don't panic. Slow the game down. We need to have a plan B and C. So, you know, it's not going to be all one-way Saints traffic on Monday. There's going to be times where Adelaide get hold of us. We need to learn to cope with that. And so far this season, when teams have got hold of us, we haven't really been coping that well. Carlisle to play on Tex. I'll eat my hat if we lose and Tex does anything, says Kale. Well, Tex does a lot all the time when we play them. So hopefully this is the one week where Dougal, Howard and Carlisle can take care of him and he does nothing. Ben saying Adelaide always beat us. Just something about the experienced guys that have the likes of Laird and the Crash Brothers kill us. Hope that changes this year. Does Steel tag one of the Crouch Brothers? No. I don't think they're damaging enough. No offense to them. They get a lot of the ball. They're hard workers. They're decent midfielders. But they're not a Nat Fyfe. They're not a Paddy Cripps. And they're not a Lockie Neal that can go forward and win the game or win the game on their own in the midfield. The Crouch Brothers can accumulate, but I think we need to worry about our own plan and go the other way and attack. And I want Steele to be off the leash. We don't want him tagging every week. It's great Sloan isn't playing, says Daniel. Guy says, nah, Saints going to be okay. 3 missed easy 35-metre shots missed by Gresham, King and Membry last week. Saints did everything right except win by 10 goals. Cooper saying, hey Jake, Robbo and Webster again can't make the squad. Loney, Marsh and Patton and Battle likely for the 5 ins. Ryder and Burns confirmed ins. Loney, I don't know if we can drop Loney and Marsh, 2 kind of defensive forwards. I think Loney's on the edge. I don't know if he gets dropped. He's done a few nice things. He's that sort of small forward that he's not really there to kick goals recently, at least. I don't know if that's part of... Obviously, he's a small forward, needs to kick goals, but he kind of roams a bit further up the ground, and he's kind of that link player, you know, where Membry marks it at centre-half back. He kicks it long, and then that connects with Loney, who then kicks into the 50. So I think his role's a bit more complicated than we think, but even I said in the podcast that he would be on the chopping block because he's only kicked 4 goals in 6 games, which is very low for a small forward. Bit of the Saints colours there. Luke says, I'm not sure if Satan will be so nice to Ross and Hill after this game. If they can't perform against the Wooden Spoon favourites, that will be the end of it. 100%. That's a very good call. If they do not perform this week along with the rest of our team, it's not just going to be left to those 2. I would hate it if those 2 played well and the rest of the team didn't. That would almost be worse. So if everyone can just do what they need to do, and if a few players have off days, but the whole team kind of, you know, works hard enough that it covers that up and we get the points, then it doesn't matter. 2011, that's ridiculous. Yep, that's in reference to the last time we beat Adelaide. I was there and it was just domination from start to finish. Kale says, Robertson and Webster deserve a gig. We need this win to get back on track, or we're just going to be the same. Watson Kilda need to change bad habits. I agree there. There's only so many times where you can give up a lead or players play them poorly and you give them a warning and you give them another week and another week and another week. You know, there was someone mentioned to me this week that, you know, Jack Nunes, he played, I think, 150 odd games in a row, Jack Nunes. I wonder how many of those were absolutely amazing. You know, no offense to him, but 150 games in a row, the players that do that are like the Nick Del Santos and the Brendan Goddards. They're not that sort of player. So we don't want players just coasting in our team anymore. We've got enough depth that if you don't play, you're out. Saints will play Crows back into form. Saints are crap, says Trevor. Clearly not a Saints fan. Lucas is saying, who would be more likely to get the inclusion out of Ryder or Savage? Get the inclusion. I think probably well, Savage has to come in, or someone has to come in for the defence. Ben Long's out, so I'd say Savage, but I'm pretty confident that Paddy Ryder's coming in. There's been a lot of talk this week about our ruck issues last week, and Adelaide have got a decent in-form young ruckman, so it'd be good to go with the two-pronged attack. Andrew said, love the fact Ronnie is playing and that Paddy should be okay, but that's about it. Lost a bit of enthusiasm after last week, and the continual overlooking of Webster and the obvious potatoisms of Seb Ross. Bit harsh there, but probably valid given last week. The Crouch brothers will handball Adelaide into trouble. Perfect. If our pressure's on and they love to handball, they're the sort of players that have 10 kicks and 25 handballs. If they're going to do that against us and our pressure's on, then we're going to see a lot of turnovers and we're going to get the job done. Webster can't catch a break. Must be doing something wrong behind the scenes, says Sam. Yeah, it's interesting. I really thought he was going to get a chance this week. We need another win, says Anne. How's the interstate going? Not sure what that means. David said, respond against the worst team in the AFL. Who cares? How about play consistent all the time instead of getting fired up after laying down like quitters? True, but we have to start somewhere, David Lee. We need to just get the job done against Adelaide. Then we can turn it into consistency. To be fair, we've won I think we've won 6 of the first 7 matches. We've won the first quarter significantly. We're pretty good in second quarters. We're terrible in third and we're decent in fourth. It's the third quarter. It's the halftime break. When we come out after halftime, no matter how the game's going, how well we're going in that first half, we always come out a bit different. I don't know if the momentum just shifts, but there's something at halftime that just slows us down. We need to get over that and pretend it's the start of the game again. Because with the start, every game that we've played this season, apart from Collingwood, we've started like a house on fire. Great job, Jake, as always, mate. Keep up the good work. Thanks, Duncan. Cheers for that. Seb Ross is bloody lucky, says Peter. Scott has said Ross Gresh. Gresh, jeez, that's a big one. Gresh, Marsh, you're out. I don't think Gresh is getting omitted anytime soon. I think these are the sort of players that, yeah, they're going to get one more week. If they can't do it this week, then they're dropped. They're going to miss the chance to play the top team. What else we got? Jared said, need a big reply this week. If we don't beat Port Adelaide to the sword and bury them, we aren't contenders, lack that finishing blow. That's true. In a lot of our wins this season, we've kind of lacked that ruthlessness, where we've had a team dead and we could have smashed them, but we let them get a few goals. Carlton was an example where we let them kick the last 3 goals. Richmond was the same. Bulldogs was the same. North, we let them come back into the game and beat us. Same with Freo. So we haven't had a game where we've kind of dominated a team from start to finish. This is a perfect chance to do that. Guy says Seb Ross sums it up. He wanted to slow down the back line, towed the line, and I don't think that was the game plan. Time to ask about back to middle. It's on Fox, the game, on Monday. Just FYI, guys. Thanks, Cooper. Ross still in the squad. Yep, he's listed. I'm pretty sure he's listed in midfield. He's not on the bench, so I don't know if that means that he's definitely playing, but he's listed in the starting 18. Am I the only one who thinks Carlisle should not be in the final squad, says Sari? Some people like it, some people don't. I think he should probably stay in. I think he's been pretty good this season. He helps Dougal Howard and some of our other defenders like Cal Wilkie go to a second or third tall, and it means that we're more flexible in the back line. If you don't have him there, and Robbo's not a straight swap for him. Robbo's an interceptor and a ball user and a rebound player. Carlisle's there to just negate whoever he's on. Extended bench, 4 gets cut and named in the 18. You're locked in. Yep, there you go. Do you think Gresh should go forward? He's not doing well in the middle. From Jim, yes, I've said that. I've said that for the last 2 years, Jim. I'm glad you're listening to that. Shame the coaches aren't, but I think he's a better small forward than he is a midfielder. There are some nice things that he does in the midfield, but I don't think he has the pace. I don't think he has the disposal efficiency to kick it to our forwards in the way that they need it to. And I think him getting 10 disposals in the forward pocket near goal is way more valuable to us than him getting 20 in the midfield and not kicking goal for the game. So that's 100% a good point there. Good comment. This Barbs, you're a joke of a club. That's a nice comment. Got nothing to bet it. Got a lot of trolls lately, guys. I don't know. if Saints TV's just going off, but a lot of trolls lately, so bring it on. Keep it going. They just look like idiots. Richard says, looking forward to seeing the boys in person in Adelaide on Monday night. Sorry that our Victorian mates can't do the same. Good luck in coming weeks as you battle this virus crap. That's very true. Very jealous. Even looking at last night, Collingwood Geelong, having that crowd there, and obviously a few crowds are going to come into those games over the next few weeks, and it doesn't look like we're going to get any football in Victoria for the rest of the season, so no footy for us. Hopefully things can ease up where at least borders can open up and we can go and have a look, but I highly doubt that's going to happen, which is a shame. What's the story with Burns? Is he a draft pick? What position? He's a midfielder. He's explosive, about 180 centimetres, 80 kilograms. They liken him to Zach Jones. He does take the game on. He's got pace, and he's a good ball user. So, I'm very excited to see what happens. And he was about pick 56, I believe, from last year's draft. Let's keep going. Battle out Loney, Seb Ross and Marsh. Battle. Jeez, people wanted him in desperately, and now suddenly they want him out. It's funny how we just change our minds week to week, but after last week, I guess you could have dropped the whole team. We will probably lose this week and win next week. That would be a St Kilda thing to do. Lose to the bottom team and then beat the top team the next week. My daughter turns 9 in August. That's how long since we beat Adelaide. Hopefully we fix them up. Go Saints. It's from Ben. He's waited a long time for this. And that's the sort of, things that you got to do to become a good team. You've got to beat your bogey team, no matter if they're bottom or top or they're whatever, what position they are and how well they're going form-wise. If they're a bogey team, they're a bogey team. So we need to just go into this and know that we need to get through and climb that mountain and get that off the shoulders, because there's a lot of teams that have done that to us recently. We had a big stint against Melbourne. We beat them every week. They beat us and they went on to play in a prelim. Those are the sort of things that get teams to the next level. It's when you get over those fears and you get through those barriers that have been issues for so long. Let's keep going. Gresh could be as dangerous as Toby Green if he played forward. That's from Stu. Great comment. He's got the same build. He can mark. He's probably not as good a set shot, but he's got all the capabilities to kick 40, 50 goals a season as a small forward. So it really does annoy me that everyone suddenly needs to become a midfielder. We've got enough mids. We can take him out, put Burns in there now. There's players there, there's depth there that you can cover Gresh in the midfield. I don't think we've been able to find a classy small forward apart from Butler that can cover his absence in the forward line. And that's it. Those are the comments. So I might leave it there, guys. Give us a thumbs up if you think that we're going to win. I think we're going to get the job done. I don't think it's going to be straightforward, because when we win, especially away from home, our record is 0-5 under Brett Ratton away from Marvel Stadium. So it's not great, but we're going to have to get used to winning on the road, especially when the whole season is pretty much going to be in Queensland now. So we need to get over this little speed bump and move on to bigger and better things. If we don't, then Monday night, you're going to see me rant again. But hopefully we get the job done. I'm tipping us by 39 points. I think we should be too good and too fast in the end, but at St Kilda, we have no idea what the hell is going to happen. But I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks again for watching. Thanks again for tuning in. You've got about 15 minutes until the Essendon Dogs game starts, so enjoy that. Enjoy your weekend. Make sure to sanitize and stay safe and stay healthy, and I'll be back Monday night to talk about hopefully a big win over the Crows. Until then, thanks and go Saints.